I guess, Kayla, we can start with you, and then we'll just kind of go down and around.
Um, my name is Jakayla Davey, and I am a senior this year.
I'm Devin Woodring, and I'm going to be a sophomore this year.
I'm George Best, and I'm going to be a freshman at Edmond Memorial.
I'm Grace, and I'm going to be a senior this year.
I'm Ashley, and I'm going to be a senior.
I'm Moira, and I'm going to be a senior.
I'm Jonathan. I'm going to be a sophomore.
Fantastic. Okay. See, you guys are doing great already. It's great. Okay, so I think I want to start with a show of hands. If you can just show your hands if you are concerned about school safety this upcoming school year.
Yeah.
Okay. Jakayla, you're kind of right there on the fence. Tell me about that.
Well, I know a lot of schools have been trying to do more safety, but there's also a lot of schools that, like, even though they have cameras, my school personally doesn't have security guards. But I technically do feel safe at my school in my neighborhood. But I do prefer that, like, because of the gun situation, that we have, like, active shooter drills. We have lockdown drills, but the factors become different when there's an active shooter. And that's the only thing that really concerns me.
You haven't had that yet in your school? Yeah, things have changed a little bit, just in the news and learning about what needs to be done. And George, you didn't raise your hand there, not concerned.
Well, I think I'm safe because we always have a plan. Although, it could be a hazard if a student came in with a gun. I would think the best solution to that would be to give the teacher a choice of having a gun in the classroom or something to protect her students.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, George, because I'll give everybody too a chance to kind of chime in on what they think maybe needs to happen or what would happen to make you feel safer. Let's do another show of hands because I like this. Kind of gives us an overview of where you guys stand with this. Let's do a show of hands. Who believes that something specific can be done in schools to make them safer? Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Something that I think is strange in our school is we obviously have student IDs to show that we go to school there, but they require us to show our student IDs after we leave the school instead of entering the school, which I can understand could be like a big pile up and everyone's just trying to get into school, but I feel like it would be safer if we scanned the people going in instead of going out. I feel like that would make it safer.
They ever give you a reason on why they did that?
No, I don't think so.
I think
the way it's been done.
the reason was, I feel like the concern was more that they only let the juniors and the seniors leave for lunch. So I felt like it was like they were more concerned, like, oh, are you a underclassman trying to get out, or are you like allowed to go out for lunch? And it's not really like the concern is, are you an actual student at the school trying to get back from lunch, or are you an intruder?
So do you think the mindset is going to change now, opposed to worrying so much about people leaving as people coming in?
I hope so, yeah. I feel like it would increase our safety a lot.
Okay. So the main reason that we wanted to get everybody together was to talk about school safety and security. And we hear a lot of voices in the media. We hear from law enforcement, from school administrators, from parents, but we rarely hear from the students. So this is a chance to get students' voices heard on what's important to you, what you want done, what you want changed, and what you want everybody to know as well. When the Uvalde shooting happened, school was already out here, but it did start to bring back to the spotlight the importance of school safety and any changes that need to be made. After that happened, did it raise any concerns with any of you after the Uvalde shooting? Ashley, you're shaking your head.
Like we were kind of talking about earlier, I haven't specifically felt unsafe in my school, but it could happen. And like, it kind of brought a new fear. Like, it's not an unfathomable thing to think of. Like, it's happening in states right next to us. It could happen in our state. It could happen at my school.
Anybody else, did that strike you when that happened? Jakayla, you're nodding your head.
I feel the same way as she said. It's just that anything could really happen. You just don't know when or like who it could be. So it's a big concern really everywhere.
It's easy, and I'm included, it's just to think, it's not going to happen here. It can't happen here. Did you guys ever feel that way? Like, no, we're in Oklahoma, this is safe. No, you never felt that way, Jonathan? You always kind of been concerned? Tell me about how you were feeling about that.
It's Oklahoma. There's, you never know what's gonna happen next, especially since it's like, it's right there, Tornado Valley. There's a lot of issues with guns and stuff.
So you just, you wouldn't be surprised on where it happens?
I wouldn't really be surprised, but I would still be like concerned.
Sure. Okay, Grace?
I think definitely like before in middle school it wasn't that much of a concern to me, but like as years go by, there's just a growing amount of school shootings everywhere, and so it's definitely made me more worried about and aware that it could definitely happen at my school, and that these things just don't happen in faraway places. And not where I live.
Was there a specific event or talk that somebody gave you that made you think, oh, okay, this is real, this is something that we need to talk about?
Yeah,
Devin?
so obviously, like, it's not only like students going in and, you know, shooting up a school anymore. It could be anybody. It could be like a man that they let in going to get a kid, and they had like, I don't know, a teacher that they didn't like or something. But I feel like my school, obviously there's like the worry that it's gonna happen. Like, you never know it's gonna happen or not. But I feel like we take a lot of safety precautions to where if it does, we will know what to do. And those who, you know, are law enforcement, I feel like they'll play a big role and step up and do what they need to do.
Let's talk about that a little bit. You said that already there are things that you guys are taught on what to do if there's a active shooter. Is there? Like, what have you been told so far?
Obviously, you know, intruder drills. You lock your doors, go to like a corner of your classroom, turn off all the lights, turn off all the blinders, and you know, you just get away from all windows and make sure there's not a way for anybody to get in.
Have you all had active intruder drills at your schools?
I think more in like elementary and middle school, it was kind of more like a joke. Like, everybody has to get really quiet and like you're giggling with your friends. But then like as more school shootings happen, it's like everybody has to get quiet. Like, this is real. And like your teachers would kind of push that on you. Like, this is real. Like, don't be giggling with your friends right now. Like, as an elementary school student, that's a lot to take in. Like, oh wait, this is happening. Like, you have to prepare for something like that.
Does it make any of you anxious when you have to do things like that? The drills?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I just think it's scary because, you know, we're practicing to like do what would happen if it were to happen. And honestly, like, me growing up, I was like, okay, it's never actually gonna happen, it's just if it does. And then like it keeps happening. I'm like, okay, there's an actual possibility that this might happen, and it like scares me, it scares my friends, and especially my family, because you never know.
Yeah.
So.
Anybody else want to talk about that?
I think it is scary that we have to take those precautions because it means it's like a real threat in our schools. It's not just like, oh, in case this ever happens. Like, it happens in schools, and that's something that every school needs to be aware about and be prepared. So they have drills for that kind of thing, which is just scary.
And honestly, I feel like we should just be nice to everyone, because, you know, a lot of this stuff is because, you know, they get bullied or they're made fun of. But if we're just nice to everyone, and, you know.
It's a good rule to live by.
Yeah, golden rule.
I love that. Has your school sent out that you guys know of anything about school security this upcoming school year? Has anybody heard about that yet? No.
I haven't.
Nothing yet. I mean, I'm sure that's going to come, I would think. What would you like the school to do, or how would you like them to address school security in this upcoming school year? Grace?
I would honestly feel more comfortable if there was more officers on campus. I know we have one, but I think there should be one for like both buildings in our campus, and it would make me feel safer, and hopefully they could prevent something like that from happening or catch it quicker if there was more.
if you could see it, see what security measures they're taking. Ashley, in terms of the school and how they talk to the students about school security, what would you like to see them do as we enter the school year?
I would like more communication. Like, we don't hear things about what they're doing to keep us safe. And I would like to know that they are making the effort to do that. I would like some more communication with that.
Sure.
I side with both of them. I think the law enforcement is a super good idea. To have people equipped with a situation like that, it makes you feel a lot safer to know that you're not like in this alone. You have people who have an authoritative presence and they can protect you if anything bad were to happen.
Yeah. Jonathan, how about you? Like, what would you like to see the school do at the start of the school year?
I mean, we already have 2 officers like already within the building, so they're already patrolling the halls. They're always making sure that there's like no one outside of class or no one enters the school without authorization. So I feel like it's pretty safe because they have cameras, they have the officers. It's pretty.
You like what they're doing right now? Okay, very good. Jacayla?
Like I said before, my school doesn't have any security officers, which I think I'd feel much more safer if we did, and even just a couple. But also, as long as there are like strict qualifications, because it is difficult these days to figure out if an officer is just going to do his job or not, or if it does come down to just shooting up a school or something like that.
So I know that we have at least 1 officer at our school at all times, which I really like him. Like, he's an easy to know person and he talks a lot. I think having more than just 1, I just feel like more law enforcement there are, the safer I'll feel like I am. We have 3 buildings at my school, and so maybe 2 or something like that. And I realized that like whenever lunch is happening, he will have to go out there and direct traffic, but then I'm worried about like who's inside, which I know that all I know is that we have 1. I don't actually know how many law enforcement there actually are, but I know that my school tries to keep us as safe as possible.
Yeah. And George, how about you? I mean, you're going to be a freshman this year going into high school. What would you like the school to say to you as an incoming student about school security?
I'd like them to give me like a plan of what is going to happen. I'd like communication where they would be, so if there is a safer place that we can get to, then get to that place. I also think that teachers should have a choice if they have a gun in their classroom. I believe in the Second Amendment, and I don't think that like guns hurt people. People hurt people. So there's good people with guns and there's bad people with guns. So we just have to make sure the guns are in the right hands.
That make you feel safer. Okay, thank you. Thank you all for answering that question. So we talked a little bit about drills, and well, you know, I do want to ask you this because when we posted on social media, you know, we hear from teachers, we hear from law enforcement, but any students out there want to chime in, and this was just on Facebook, and you know what? Some people like ripped us on there saying, you're going to make these kids anxious. You're going to make them think that, you know, that they need to be worried about this. Kids shouldn't have to worry about this. Like when we pose these questions to you, is this something that makes you anxious? I mean, how do you feel about when we start talking about the school safety and guns? Jacayla?
I feel as if with anything you can become anxious, really, because that's just how human beings are. But I feel like it's important to let your children know that these things are happening and what they can do to help the situation or to better protect themselves and others around them. To be just self-aware in particular.
I think it's important and necessary to keep having conversations about school shootings because they just keep happening and they will keep happening, but if we keep talking about it, hopefully we can make some progress to slow them down or have an end to the shootings.
So you guys, were you okay with us talking about this today?
Yeah, I think talking about it is so much better than pretending it doesn't happen, because it does happen. And by spreading awareness, maybe we can stop this horrific thing that's happening.
What would you want people to know too, who say, we need to listen to people who know, we need to listen to law enforcement, we need to listen to them, or maybe school administrators. How important do you think, your voice is on this conversation?
I think since our lives are the ones who are mostly at risk for school shootings, then our voices deserve to be heard, and what makes us feel more comfortable at school should be listened to.
Yeah, I feel as if we are the ones that are having to go through this, where police officers or administration aren't exactly in our place, that we have more of how we feel when these types of situations happen, and we have more on say with it.
What was your guys' reaction when you heard about the Uvalde shooting? Does anybody want to share that?
It's kind of just you don't know what to think. Your heart just kind of breaks, and it's you can't imagine that somebody would do that to children in school. They're trying to get an education. They're in their most vulnerable state, and you just wouldn't expect that.
Has anybody in school been in school when the threat has happened? Has anybody?
We've had sort of threats, but they weren't legitimate sometimes. I mean, it's kind of become a joke to some people that school shootings are just a joke when they're super serious. But I mean, people think they can get a laugh out of being I have a bomb or something, I have a gun and I'm going to shoot up the school tomorrow. Some people think that that's funny, when in reality it scares a lot of people because it's something that could very easily be true.
I know some photos have been passed around of potential threats, and so it gets sent to administration and stuff, and then they think it's an issue, and it worries the students when really it's just somebody just trying to make a joke over a serious topic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it was last year, we had an email sent out to everybody, and the first paragraph was don't be alarmed, but there was a gun on campus, and then you kept reading, and at the very end it said, by the way, it was a toy gun. But of course that put everybody's nerves on high, somebody might have brought a gun, even if it was fake, that somebody would bring that to school.
Do you feel like the schools do a good job of making themselves available if somebody has to report a threat? Say you heard something, is there a way that you would go about to report that makes it easy and accessible?
I mean, I would think the only way is to report it to a counselor or a teacher, but I feel like they should offer their help in bigger ways to prevent a problem like this, because I feel like a lot of people would be scared if they noticed something and they wouldn't want to jeopardize someone if it wasn't a big deal. So I think that they should have a safe space where they could...
you don't want to get somebody in trouble.
Yeah.
Kind of one of those, but yeah. And you probably, maybe you'll learn more this year on different reporting avenues, but let's talk about a little bit about the biggest threat. Do you all think that shooters, intruders in school, do you think that's the biggest threat when it comes to school security and your safety?
It's hard to say. There's, a lot to worry about in school, but I guess that's one of the most threatening or life-endangering problems that we could have.
Yeah. It's scary because, a gun, it can kill somebody. And if I'm in a school with a person who has a gun, they don't know how to use a gun right, my life is at danger. But,
I feel as if anymore it is one of our biggest issues for the schools, because before, maybe back in your time, it wasn't an issue and the kids could just do about. But anymore I feel as if it's just gotten worse, since no matter if you take guns away or something like that, you can always get them illegally somehow, and somebody will always have one.
One thing about the school shootings that just breaks my heart is that those kids who have passed away due to these shootings, like how many of those kids have could have found like the answer to cancer or vaccines that could help with diseases, or it just breaks my heart because there's been a lot of people who have passed and a lot of
what their lives could have become
Yeah.
if they ended so soon. Yeah, it's so senseless. Has anybody had to report anything before, like any school threats or anything? Just curious.
Me, never personally.
Yeah.
I've heard of them from friends and stuff, and it's scary whenever the principal is like warning you about something. But me personally, no, I've never reported anything.
Okay. So, let's see here. I think one of the big things that we want to focus on is that a lot of law enforcement agencies are now looking at what things need to change. Administrators are looking at what things need to change in the school. I know we've touched on it a little bit, but I want us just to talk a little bit more about suggestions that you may have as students going into this school year. What do you think personally needs to be done in schools to make them safer? George, I'll start with you.
I definitely think somebody on patrol before they enter the building, having somebody there to confirm that it's a person that can be there and should be there to either pick up a kid or is checking them out, or same thing. But
We'll go this way, Devin.
Honestly, I feel like just being nice to everyone, But like duffel bags. So everyone mostly has a backpack. I feel like if maybe we had like a bag check, if not necessarily just backpacks, but like duffel bags or like extra hand-ons, because guns could fit practically anywhere. They come in all shapes and sizes, and it's scary. But I don't know, maybe bag checks.
I mean, how would you stop somebody from walking in with a gun? Maybe that way?
Yeah, just bag checks.
Okay.
Probably just stricter security, and I agree with bad checks, but it's like it comes to a point where it like leans into the time of school also, because I know my past schools have had like where we'd have back checks once we walked through the door, and it'd take a while for everybody to get in, and it would lead into our learning time as well.
So what do you do then?
It's kind of up in the air. You can't exactly pinpoint a way to fix the problem, but I believe that we'd be able to come up with something sooner or later in time.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, Jonathan, what do you want to see the school do?
I feel like more security guards would be a little better, just like so it's not only having 2 or 1 or even like 0 that you can see. I feel like having at least a few sprinkled here and there, whether it's outside, inside, or just constantly patrolling around the building. I feel like that would make it a lot safer. And again, bag checks. Because I feel like more security guards, bag checks would be like, hey, we have like 4 lanes here. You can just sprinkle on in. We'll get like 6 students, 8 students at a time, depending on how many officers are at a lane. So.
Yeah, I think bag checks are a good thing as well, but it kind of comes to the point where, like, is it kind of infringing on privacy? So I think having a probable cause is probably better to search bags. Like, well, you probably have to report someone, but if they had been talking strangely about something and maybe they had been carrying a duffel bag, that would be a probable cause to check it, and then you wouldn't have to go around checking everybody's. But other things, like at our school, I think this is a good thing we have, is we have sensors outside of almost every door where you have to put your student ID on and scan it, and then the doors will open, which makes it a lot harder for an intruder to get into. But for students who, have access to the building but could be carrying a firearm, I think the problem is a lot more deeply rooted and could come to mental health. And so security obviously would be good, but also help for people who are struggling could get to the root of the problem.
Do you know if you have that in your schools now, like good mental health counselors? Are you aware?
I love my counselors. I love them. They're really good.
That's good.
They're there for you physically, mentally. Love it.
Maybe even more of that
Yeah.
then is needed. Ashley, what do you think schools need to do to make them safer?
I agree with the mental health aspect of it. I think if teachers and counselors got to know their students more and got to know like who was struggling, who maybe needed a little more help, who was getting bullied, that we could stop the making of shooters and we could stop it at the source of the problem.
Yeah, mental health, that's a big aspect for sure. And Grace?
I think doors should remain locked at all times and not make it accessible for anybody to just walk in at any place or time of the day or any part of the building. So hopefully that would prevent just strangers from walking in. Yeah.
That's good. I've heard it said, though, you know, hey, we don't want to make our schools prisons, you know, we want to have it so locked down that kids feel like they're in jail. What's your thoughts on that? Anybody can chime in.
I think there's a lot.
Well, the doors aren't locked from the inside, so you could still leave if you wanted to. But I think just having it locked, nobody needs to be in that school that shouldn't be there. So overall, it is beneficial for students to be inside and not wandering.
Does it make you feel safer when you see things like that happening? You have to have the badge, like the security guards. I mean, does it really make you be like, okay, I don't have to worry about that?
I think those are good precautions. It's just something that you can sort of put into the back of your mind that like it's harder to get into the school if you are not a student, so you don't have to worry about someone, you know, older coming in or an adult coming in and doing something bad because there's that precaution in place.
I was going to say, at my elementary school and middle school, there was one point of entry, like a main office that you had to go through. You had to speak with the people at the office desk. But at our high school, we just have multiple doors all around. And like she said, we do have scanners. So you do have to have an ID to get in them. But sometimes they're just unlocked and you can just walk in them, which kind of defeats the purpose of having the scanners.
Last year, there was a door unlocked by one of my classrooms, and it just didn't have a lock on it. It was never, protected. And so somebody walked in and all confused, and they just laid in the hallway right outside of my door, and my teacher found them, and then it was this big, I don't know, but that really put me on to having doors locked at all times. I don't like the thought of just an intruder laying by the lockers outside.
So you don't feel like your rights are being taken away, you know? Because, you're in high school now. It's like you're given more freedom. But when these things happen, do you feel like?
I think it's more prison-y when they're restricting your right to go to the bathroom. Like, you have to sit in class. You aren't allowed to go walk around in the halls. Like, having kids where they can still, get up and use the bathroom and get a snack, go to the vending machine, get a drink. That's what makes it not prison. But, I don't think locking doors is prison. I lock the doors to my car and my house, so.
Very good. George, any worries as you're going into high school?
Not really. I liked how she touched on how, yourself, your home is, if you say school is like a prison with the doors locked, it's not necessarily a prison if your home is a prison. So I would say that having doors locked is a good thing for our schools. And
Are you nervous about being in high school?
no idea what it's going to bring me. I'm just going to kind of go with the flow.
But do those nerves have to do with school safety, or is it more so just going to a new school and being a freshman?
More so just going to the school and being a freshman.
Gotcha.
And I know that law enforcement does their best to do their job, but it's like you sometimes have a selective few people that go into law enforcement but don't do their job as they're supposed to, which makes it hard for other people that aren't in the law enforcement to take what they say and to understand that what they're doing is right or not. And it's just really hard, and it becomes like, it's really building on trust, but it's like you can't really exactly.
Is there anything else that anybody wants to add here that was good? Devin? Are you guys glad that this is something that's being talked about? But I also think I'm kind of sad that we have to talk about it, just because, I think you mentioned, back when I went to school, we didn't have any active shooter drills, anything like that. Is that just a reality of where we are right now?
For sure.
Honestly, I hate talking about this, but it's like something we need to talk about, because there's always a possibility that it might happen. And, we gotta take the precautions, and we gotta know what to do and what's right and what's wrong. But I definitely don't like talking about this, but it's just, we have to.
It's important for sure. Will you be thinking about school safety when you go into school and you go about your day? Is that something you even think about?
Usually it's prompted by something. There's school's busy. You're usually thinking about learning instead of anything bad that could happen. But little things could happen to make you think about oh no, am I in danger? But it's usually not something that's on my mind.
Well, I hope that this school year goes great for all of you.